After the two golden circles came to rest upon them, they could feel their spiritual power and bodies return to normal as the circles protected them from the external forces. This power. Jungu looked around at the golden hue that was now surrounding them. It brought a sense of peace to both their bodies and spiritual power, and it also brought with it a sense of familiarity and intimacy. It's little Xie. Han Zifei began to choke up as she felt the familiar presence of their daughter. Even in the heat of battle, she had not only remembered them but even used a part of her power to protect them. I hope little Xie can get through this trial. I only pray for her safe return, Jungu said worriedly, his heart filled with concern for their daughter. Their child had already gone through too much and they were not strong enough to help her. They could only pray for her victory over the god of destruction. On the battlefield, the god of destruction's power kept increasing. In the face of Junwu Xie's attack, not only was it not diminishing but seemed to be growing, and the look on his face was only getting more and more crazy. Junwu Xie, you cannot defeat me. By using the integrated reincarnation spell, I'm only getting stronger. The powers of all your friends and loved ones are now part of the power that I will use to crush you. The god of destruction stared at Junwu Xie with bloodshot eyes. He had to admit that Junwu Xie had become extremely powerful, but this was his battleground. He had already given up on the blood sacrifice of the three realms. Even without Jun Wuyao to break through the void, he could still absorb the power of everyone in the three realms and in doing so, become someone that was feared by all. Jun Wuxie stared coldly at the manic god of destruction. In the midst of the battle, she could clearly feel his powers increasing, and what he said made the gravity of the situation even clearer. She had already guessed the god of destruction's plan and sent out some of her power to protect Han Zifei and the rest. But her powers were only being depleted and could only protect people within a certain range. If they left the holy city, she was not sure if she could continue to protect them. The god of destruction must be stopped. He had to be stopped before his spell reached the entire three realms. Jun Wuxie took a deep breath and attacked the god of destruction once again. The battle to end all battles continued to rage on, and the god of destruction's power kept increasing. Power came from all around as it was used by the god of destruction to defeat Jun Wuxie. Something had changed in this previously one-sided battle. Although Jun Wuxie's power had grown tremendously, it was not growing anymore, and it was difficult to keep fighting against the god of destruction whose power was ever increasing. I cannot lose. Jun Wuxie had a look of steely determination in her eyes, and even when faced with the ever-growing power of the god of destruction, showed no signs of fear or retreat. Little Xie, you are not battling alone. A familiar voice suddenly emanated from her soul. After a moment's stunned silence, a figure appeared behind Jun Wuxie. The figure had no warmth or sense of familiarity to it, but somehow still gave her a sense of peace. You still have us fighting by your side. The figure hugged her from the back and held her outstretched hands as if giving her a boost of power. In the instant that their hands touched, blinding silver light came from all directions and went straight towards Jun Wuxie's body. Each ball of light by itself held little power, but they were arriving in such huge numbers and being absorbed into Jun Wuxie's body one by one. With each ball of light, Jun Wuxie could clearly feel her power levels growing. Gods exist because of faith. The ones whom you have protected are now protecting you in return. Jun Wuyao started to smile as the silhouette of his body started to blur as it melted into a giant ball of light that reconstituted itself into her body once again. While this was happening in the lower realms, countless crowds gathered together. Jun Xian, Jun Qing, Chu Lingyue, Lei Chun, Mo Chenyuan, Bai Yun Xian. There are countless soldiers of the Ruilin army and the Iron Blood army. At this moment, with them all gathered together, there was a person among them with a bright halo all over his body, Tianze. Tianze suddenly coughed up some blood and his body started convulsing. He started to speak, but the voice that came out was that of Jun Wuyao. Little Xie needs you. Please send your faith to her. Those were Jun Wuyao's final words to the people. Tianze had once used a drop of Jun Wuyao's blood, and after Jun Wuyao's self-explosion, that drop of blood had become a final conduit to his soul, and he used that to convey his final wish, their faith. Those words puzzled Jun Xian and the rest for a moment before they suddenly gained clarity. They immediately mobilized everyone but did not know how to convey their faith. After a moment, they tried praying for Jun Wuxia's victory. When little balls of light emerged from their heads and floated up to the skies, they finally understood. This was the power of faith that Jun Wuyao spoke of. And this power would carry their prayers and faith up to Jun Wuxia. The unification of the lower realms allowed everyone to be mobilized in such a short time, and was made easier due to the soldiers and fast horses of the Ruelin army. Before long, all in the lower realms put down whatever they were doing and whether kneeling or standing, conveyed their sincere faith through prayers. The power of an innumerable faiths combined, went up into the sky, pierced the clouds and went straight to the upper realm. Simultaneously, in the Sea Spirit City, Yi Gu and everyone else also felt Jun Wuyao's final wish. They knew what it implied and were heartbroken. But for now, they pushed their despair aside as the Night Regime, Ghost Army and everyone else in the city started to pray in order to send their faith above. They were created by Jun Wuyao and each had a piece of his soul in them. Their prayers carried more weight than others as they carried a piece of Jun Wuyao's godly power with it and affected all that surrounded them. The sea spirit beasts who lived in the Sea of Death, not far from the Sea Spirit City, also felt the danger that was upon them. In their own unique way, they let out their cries and soon balls of light emerged from the sea and started flying towards the direction of the sacred city. Ghost realm, soul realm. Countless forces of faith started to travel through space and fly up. This was the power and faith of good, and also their faith in life. The god of destruction's attacks on Jun Wuxia were becoming more intense. The power he was absorbing from his spell was the weapon in defeating her. However, just at the moment that the god of destruction thought he was going to send Jun Wuxia to hell, flashes of warm light appeared in the sky and flew towards Jun Wuxia's body, being absorbed into it. The flashes of light came from all directions and started raining onto Jun Wuxia like a storm. The god of destruction's eyes became as big as saucers as he watched the little balls of light get absorbed into Jun Wuxia's body, and her divine power increased with every ball of light. Her power, which was just a moment ago being consumed by the god of destruction, now seemed to be threatening to overpower him. How is this possible? Jun Wuxia, what the hell did you do? The god of destruction roared incredulously, unable to understand what was going on in front of him. Jun Wuxia was not from this world. No matter how powerful she was, she should not have been able to absorb power from this world. But the god of destruction's belief was being destroyed in front of his very eyes. How could that be? How could Jun Wuxia take in power from this world? It was impossible. However, the impossible was happening and Jun Wuxia's power was growing rapidly. Those continuous balls of light were adding to her power and pushing her to new heights. I've done things that you, calling yourself a god, would never deign worthy to do. Jun Wuxia's body was being filled with a warm and gentle power that was coming from all the people she had interacted with. It was all their help and support that would help her defeat the god of destruction. This would be the last battle ever in 3 realms. The god of destruction had no regard for life, treating humans like weeds, while Jun Wuxia had always tried to protect humanity in the world. And the world was now repaying them in the same manner. Jun Wuyao may have had left the world, but he used his dying breath to tell everyone of the battle's importance. It was his final gift of love to Jun Wuxia, to give it their all. Impossible. I am a god. I am the god of this world. You can never defeat me. The god of destruction was consumed by madness and kept using the integrated reincarnation spell to try and gain more power. However, all the people who had felt threatened before had already escaped. All those who had not yet been consumed by the golden light had used all their spiritual power to escape. There was an endless forest near the sacred city that was barren all around it. After all the people had escaped, the spell was expanding fast, but it still needed time and enough people to capture as a foundation. On the other hand, the power of faith that Jun Wuxia was receiving was being given to her out of people's own free will. She neither needed to fight nor snatch to get it. All she needed to do was to accept it into her body. This would be pivotal in deciding the final outcome. The increase of the god of destruction's power started to slow down while Jun Wuxie's kept increasing rapidly. The purity and warmth of the power of faith was the source of her power. Jun Wuxie's attacks started to become more fierce, and the god of destruction was growing weaker and more vulnerable under the barrage of attacks. The moment that Jun Wuxie was going to defeat the god of destruction had finally arrived. As the god of destruction fell heavily to the ground, the arrogance he had built up over thousands of years had been completely destroyed, and for the first time, fear was showing in his golden eyes. He stared at Jun Wuxie, unable to believe that he had been defeated by someone from outside of this world. He could not believe that he would be defeated by someone whom he had always treated as a pawn in his plans. Jun Wuxie looked at the fallen god of destruction, whose distraught face had fear all over it. But her own face did not show any trace of joy. There was no joy, no excitement, only calmness. "I don't believe it. I don't believe it." The god of destruction stood up once more, but his stature was somewhat diminished. He was severely weakened by Jun Wuxie's attacks, and the integrated reincarnation spell had also worn off, leaving him even weaker. "How could you have beaten me? With what?" The god of destruction wailed at Jun Wuxie like he was in mourning. Jun Wuxie pushed him from the altar into the mud, and in that moment, his pride, built up over many years, was destroyed along with his dirty and greedy soul. "You still don't understand?" Jun Wuxie said to him coldly. The god of destruction gritted his teeth and asked, "Understand? The world is just returning the treatment that you gave to them." Jun Wuxie said matter-of-factly. The god of destruction sneered. "This world? I am the god of this world, and it's mine to do with as I please. I created everything in it, and if I want to kill, nobody can do anything about it." Ha ha ha. To him, it was ludicrous that the world he created was now abandoning him. Jun Wuxie was nonplussed at his obstinate expression. In that moment she only felt sadness for him. "I am a god. I am a god." He started hollering, as if that was the only way to preserve his last shred of dignity as a god. However, his misguided pride only made Jun Wuxie feel even more sad for him. Gods created everything, but they could not control everything. All beings in the world were born with free will, and from that moment on, with their feelings, hopes, and desires, should never be used by gods as chess pieces. The wings on Jun Wuxie's back were flapping gently, suspending her in mid-air. The god of destruction, on the other hand, had lost the strength to fly and could only look at Jun Wuxie with hatred. "If a god is like you, it's better to have no god at all." Jun Wuxie raised her sword of light high and concentrated all the power in her body into it. She struck swiftly and suddenly. Powered by all the faith and belief from the three realms, it struck straight through his chest like a bolt from heaven. Instantly, the god of destruction had a look of unbearable pain on his face, and his eyes were wide with disbelief, but he had no strength to return to the skies. Everything in front of him started to go blurry, including Jun Wuxie, the person he hated most. He collapsed suddenly, thousands of years of memories flashing before his eyes. In a time long ago, he was in charge of destruction and looked down at the three realms from the heavens, laughing at their stupidity and ignorance, but was chided by the god of light. From their perch, they could see the temples that the people built for them. They could see the people that they created, kneeling down inside those temples, offering up prayer and song in return for their kindness and benevolence. At the same time, the god of destruction was struggling to remain conscious. He saw that from the devotees in the temples, tiny dots of light emerged from their heads and flew up to paradise, which served as nourishment for the gods. So, that was it. A bitter smile formed on the god of destruction's mouth. He finally understood what he had been neglecting and also the reason for his defeat. It was the power of faith. Gods created people, but it was people through their faith and adoration that elevated the gods who helped them. In the end, the god of destruction was defeated. He was not defeated at the hands of Jun Wuxie alone, but by the hands of the souls that were abandoned by him. The faith that he had dismissed earlier was the very thing that led to his downfall. The god of destruction gradually grew weaker. He finally closed his eyes and rays of light started to leak out from his body, and finally, His body returned to the ground that he had created. Jun Wuxie gently eased herself onto the ground as she watched the god of destruction's body disappear. The Selvan armor came off her body and turned back into an ear pin that she could hold in the palm of her hand. She held the pin in her hand and unconsciously tightened her grip until it pierced her skin, but she did not feel any pain. As she watched the golden light that covered the holy city slowly fade away, she felt no joy on the inside. She was victorious but did not feel happy at all. The god of destruction was dead and the three realms had its salvation. But she had lost her lover, who could never be replaced. I won, we've won. She unclenched her fist and looked at the face of Selvan, which retained its beauty even though it was stained by her blood. Warm tears rolled down her face and fell into her palm, mixing with her blood. She was a picture of pain and sadness. Can I cry now? She whispered to nobody as the tears started dripping off her face, showing her hopelessness. She had won, but she would never get him back. It was not the victory she wanted. She was like a child, squatting helplessly on the ground, heaving and crying, but the pressure made her feel like choking and there was no sound. When she was fighting, there was no room to feel sad or unhappy. Who would ease her pain now that the battle was over? She may have won the battle, but she felt a huge hole in her heart, which was the most painful wound she had ever felt. In the midst of the destruction, Fei Yen felt that the danger had passed. He heard the entire exchange between Jun Wuxie and the god of destruction and knew that it was all over. But where was little Xie? Fei Yen started wandering around until finally, he felt Jun Wuxie, who was squatting on the ground, sobbing silently. Little Xie, Fei Yen said, at a loss of how to continue. Nobody could understand Jun Wuxie's hurt and pain at losing a loved one as well as he could. Fei Yen did not say another word. He squatted next to her and held her in his arms, comforting his friend in his own way. Han Zifei and Jun Gu had rushed to the scene and could see Jun Wuxie being held by Fei Yen from afar. Both their hearts became heavy when they saw that Jun Wuxie had won but lost Jun Wuyao in the process. The world had been liberated thanks to her, but she would forever be living with those demons with no hope for salvation. The two looked at each other silently and walked over to Jun Wuxie. Han Zifei put Hua Yao down to one side and embraced Jun Wuxie as well. Don't cry, my child. Wu Yao would not have wanted to see you this way. Han Zifei put aside her own pain and held her daughter. She knew that no matter what she said, it would not be of use in that moment. Jun Wuxie lost an irreplaceable lover. Jun Gu stood there clenching his fists, not knowing what to say. No language in the world had the words to express the situation. Victory had not brought joy, just a pervasive sadness. The blood-red mist was slowly starting to recede from the three realms and sunlight started to bathe the land in a fresh dawn. However, the sunlight brought no warmth to Jun Wuxie's heart. Just as everyone was wallowing in sadness, a bright ray of light pierced through the sky and a figure surrounded by a golden aura appeared. When they saw the figure, everyone was shaken out of their stupor. Could it be that the god of destruction was not dead? When the figure walked out of the circle of light, everyone was stunned. Out of the light appeared an extremely handsome man with golden eyes, smiling and looking warm and friendly. I guess a pathway has been opened. The handsome man looked at the mess around him and sighed involuntarily. The destructive power here is on par with that brat, Satan's. Who are you? Jun Gu asked the stranger while standing in front of his wife and daughter to shield them. The man sensed Jun Gu's apprehension and tried to wave him off, laughing. Don't be anxious. I am not a bad person. I'm here to look for her. He pointed to Jun Wuxie, who was still within the embrace of Han Zifei. Jun Gu frowned slightly and exchanged a look with Han Zifei. Han Zifei took a step forward. Just who are you exactly? The man laughed. I am a god but not one of this world. I have transcended these worlds and am part of the god world. I am here at someone's request but also to help Miss Wuxie fulfill her destiny. What do you mean? Han Zifei stared cautiously at the person in front of her. If it was not for him not exhibiting even the slightest hostility, she would have really suspected that the person was there to cause trouble. I think it might be more appropriate for me to talk to Wuxie herself. the man said with some difficulty. Han Zifei hesitated a moment and released Jun Wuxie from her embrace after exchanging a knowing look with Jun Gu. Jun Wuxie's eyes were bloodshot from all the crying but was stunned when she saw the person in front of her. It's been a while. The man looked at Jun Wuxie somewhat wistfully. It's you. Jun Wuxie was stunned. Little Wuxie. Do you know him? Han Zifei asked with caution. Jun Wuxie replied, I can't say that I do, but I have seen him in a dream before. In the environment created by the spirit tree, other than Jun Wuyao, there was a child. That child had golden eyes who always had a smile on his face unlike Jun Wuyao. The face before her was as she remembered it, albeit more mature. Han Zifei and Jun Gu were not totally clear about what was going on, but if Jun Wuxie had met him before, then he was probably not an enemy. I'm so happy that you still remember me. The man smiled and scratched the back of his head. I have received many blessings from you but have not had the time to thank you. However, we have many days ahead of us for that, and for now, let's talk about the matter at hand. What is this all about? Jun Wuxie asked suspiciously. The man replied, It's like this. I come from the gods' world, which is the final destination for the most outstanding gods of each world. The one you just defeated wreaked such destruction in an attempt to enter our world. He should have been our problem to deal with, but the laws of our world forbid us from interfering with matters of our original world or any other world once we are inside. But to let him continue unabated would have resulted in irreparable damage. So we had no choice but to ask you to deal with him. We are sorry for the suffering you have endured. The man continued abashedly. In order to enter the gods' world, gods are selected based on a strict criteria and only allowed to enter if they meet the stringent conditions. The god of destruction was finding ways and means to enter but did not realize that his actions broke the rules of the god's world and threw the three realms off balance. The gods in the god's world discussed how to solve the problem of the god of destruction, and they decided to let the soul of the previous messenger of God into the world to rid it of this evil, and Jun Wuxie was the chosen one. Jun Wuxie used to be the guide of the gods. When the world of the handsome man and Jun Wuyao first appeared, it was she who qualified them to be gods. In her soul, there was the power of a god, but as she had been reincarnated, she was no longer bound by the rules of the god's world. You are saying that it was you who arranged for me to come to this world? Then Wuyao. Jun Wuxie's mind was racing. If she had been sent here by others, was Jun Wuyao as well? Him. He was a disobedient one and did many bad things in our world. So, in order to punish him, we sent him to this world to do some penance, and saving the world with you was his path to redemption. Redemption? Your redemption involves the destruction of his soul. Jun Wuxie felt the anger rising within her. The man saw her anger and raised his hands up in defense, saying, Don't worry. That was what he needed to endure, but he has already paid for his past misdeeds. So, the man raised his hand and a dark-colored flame appeared in his palm. Since he has atoned, he can now be reborn. With a flourish of his hand, he dropped the flame onto the ground, and once it hit the ground, the flame expanded and transformed into the form of a man. When the man's final form had taken shape, Jun Wuxie's eyes widened and rushed into his arms without a moment's hesitation. I'm back. The newly reincarnated Jun Wuyao held Jun Wuxie in his arms as tight as he could, the look in his eyes saying he never wanted to let go. Jun Wuxie nodded her head silently, while in Jun Wuyao's embrace, an indescribable joy filling every corner of her heart. Now, isn't everything all right again? The man said with a big smile. Jun Wuyao looked at the man, his eyes filled with contempt. The man just shrugged. Jun Wuyao's return dispelled the gloom from everyone's hearts. They were all happy for Jun Wuxie and Jun Wuyao. You two can reconnect later. We have important business to discuss now. The man could not help but disturb the long-suffering lovers. Jun Wuyao looked coldly at the man. For some inexplicable reason, whenever he saw that constantly smiling face, he always had the urge to punch it in. Don't look at me like that. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have the chance to reunite with Li. Wuxie. The man hummed. If you have something to say, just say it. Jun Wuyao did not appreciate the sentiment. The man pouted. He and Jun Wu Yao just could not get along. He then turned to Jun Wu Xie and said, although the so-called god of destruction has been destroyed and the three realms has returned to peace, the havoc he caused will not be fixed so easily. Since your powers have been restored and have also earned the faith of the people of this world, you need to step in for the missing gods of this world and protect it. What? Jun Wu Xie was shocked. We hope you return, but for now you need to be the god of this world and guide it back to normalcy, the man said. Jun Wu Xie was silent, but Jun Wu Yao retorted, why should she? The corner of the man's mouth twitched. He was still just as annoying even after so many reincarnations. He really did not understand why he was with Jun Wu Xie. I wasn't asking you, I was asking Wu Xie, the man replied. Jun Wu Yao gave a cold scoff. Jun Wu Xie was frowning slightly. She did not seem too interested in the plan laid out by the man. She just wanted to find a quiet, scenic mountain to live out the rest of her days with Jun Wu Yao. The man saw her hesitation and said with a smile, don't be too quick to say no. If you become the god of this world, you can make all your loved ones, even those who have passed, gods of this world as well to protect the world with you. Jun Wu Xie was a little tempted as she thought of Rong Ruo, Yen Bugui and the rest. Furthermore, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you can even see the girl who lost her life for you in a previous life. The man threw another enticement at Jun Wu Xie. Jun Wu Xie's eyes turned wide in amazement. Xiao Xiao. The man smiled and nodded his head. Yes, she is now the main god in our world, and if you become a god, you can surely see each other. Jun Wu Xie took a deep breath and said to the man, all right, I agree. The man smiled contentedly, completely oblivious to Jun Wu Yao's contemptuous look. So we leave this world to you. Hopefully you can restore its balance and peace. The man raised his hands and two bursts of golden light flew from his fingertips and entered Jun Wu Xie and Jun Wu Yao's bodies between their eyebrows. Little Yang, do you think your own disagreement is all that matters? If Jun Wu Xie says yes, Jun Wu Yao would not ever disagree. The man was very proud of himself for succeeding in his ploy. When the divine power entered through their eyebrows, they both felt it permeate their whole body and awaken a strange sensation within them. The god's paradise. 2 years had passed since that man appeared, and Jun Wu Xie was observing the three realms through the god mirror, happy that balance had been restored and the people were happy. She was stroking little Black in her lap when a sphere suddenly rolled next to her leg. She looked down at it and was stunned by what she saw. A pair of sorrowful, pleading eyes belonging to Lord Meme were looking up at Jun Wu Xie, tugging at her skirt. Before Jun Wu Xie could understand what was going on, she spotted a fair and tender little doll walking drunkenly towards her side, as the little baby grabbed sacrificial blood rabbit in a hold by its tail. The little baby opened its toothless mouth to make some babbling sounds and waved its hands at a bleeding Lord Meme who was seeking refuge at Jun Wu Xie's feet. Meh. Lord Meme shouted in fright as the baby came closer. Just as the baby was about to pick up Lord Meme, a large figure appeared behind him and scooped the baby up. Ah! The baby released sacrificial blood rabbit's tail from its hand and continued to make a humming sound. The baby looked up, saw Jun Wu Yao's handsome face and stopped making a fuss. You shouldn't have agreed to his suggestion. I told you he was up to no good. Jun Wu Yao held his baby and walked up next to his wife with an exasperated look on his face. After they accepted the proposal, both of them became the gods of this world, and Jun Wu Xie summoned the souls of Yen Bugui and the rest to become gods to assist to protect the world. However, it was no easy feat to bring order to a world that was in such a mess. Even with Xiao Chu and the rest helping, Jun Wu Yao found himself busy beyond expectation and could not find time to spend with his wife. Even the baby that he was holding was born out of stealing some time away. Jun Wu Xie looked up at her husband and child, her eyes filled with happiness. When the baby saw its mother, it immediately waved its hands in the air asking for a hug, totally disregarding its father. Aren't little Lotus and the rest helping too? Jun Wu Xie chuckled. Jun Wu Yao sighed. Their ring spirits had become god ring spirits, greatly increasing in power, not to mention their own god powers. The soul world had been reopened and the three realms had also gradually changed. Just that, but you've been spending less time with me, Jun Wu Yao complained. Jun Wu Xie couldn't help but chuckle at Jun Wu Yao's pitiful face and waved him close. When he leaned in, he felt a warm and gentle touch on his cheek. We still have a long time ahead of us, Jun Wu Xie said with a smile. Jun Wu Yao broke into a smile as well and took Jun Wu Xie into her arms. No matter how long, it won't be long enough. As the child of two gods, all Jun Mo Yi wanted to do every day was climb on to Lord Meme, hug blood sacrificial rabbit under the sun, and watch the stars with her uncle, the heavenly imperial snow lotus. She was only 3 years old but already had a dilemma. She had followed her parents to her grandparents' house, but, "Mother, why do I have 2 maternal grandfathers?" Jun Mo Yi looked up at her mother who was cradling her. Confusion written all over her cherubic face. Everyone in the Jun family was gathered in the great hall of the Jun residence, enjoying each other's company. However, when the innocent child asked that question, the entire hall fell into silence. Jun Xian, whose energy beguiled his white-haired appearance, looked at his confused granddaughter, turned his gaze to Jun Gu and Han Zifei and coughed to attract their attention. Jun Gu was momentarily at a loss and did not know what to do. Over 4 years ago, after the god of destruction had been defeated and the 3 realms returned to peace, Jun Wu Xie and Jun Wu Yao left the 3 realms to reside in the heavenly realm. Jun Gu and Han Zifei then returned to the lower 3 realms to live with Jun Xian, Jun Qing and the others in the Jun residence. Jun Wu Xie and Jun Wu Yao visited occasionally, and even though distance was no longer an issue with their powers, each visit was still cherished by all. "Little Yi Yi, why do you ask?" Han Zifei looked at her husband's state with amusement, smiled at the child and reached out her hand saying, "Come to grandmother." After receiving a nod of approval from her mother, Jun Mo Yi slowly made her way to her grandmother's side, asking to be picked up. "I saw a grandfather in a room in the courtyard." Jun Mo Yi looked at his grandmother with her dark gold eyes as she said it. Instantly, the entire family understood what was going on. When Jun Gu was chosen by the god of destruction, he was given a new body. When he and Han Zifei returned to the lower realm, he discovered that his original body had been kept in good condition by the family. However, his soul had stabilized in his current body and transferring it might have had negative side effects, so after discussing with the family, the decision was made to remain in his current body. As for his original body, nobody in the family was willing to get rid of it even though it was just an empty shell. In any case, with Jun Wu Xie's power protecting it, the body was incorruptible. So it just sat in a room in the courtyard and a servant would clean it regularly. Jun Gu always felt a little awkward regarding this matter, and whenever he saw his other self lying motionless on the bed, he always felt a little breathless with awe. Since neither his father nor his wife was willing to put that body into the ground, he had no choice but to get used to it. As the years passed, Jun Gu had all but forgotten about it and did not expect his granddaughter to discover it. "That's your grandfather too. He has 2 bodies and can switch them whenever one is tired. Isn't he great?" Han Zifei smiled at her granddaughter. Jun Gu looked at his wife's evil sense of humor but did not say anything. Jun Mo Yi, however, believed every word and looked at his grandfather with great admiration, making Jun Gu feel superhuman. Seeing Han Zifei put a smile on Jun Mo Yi's face, Jun Wu Xie and Jun Wu Yao could not help but chuckle along. Jun Mo Yi's confusion was solved, but Jun Xian seemed to suddenly think of something and turned to look at Jun Qing, who was smiling. "You still dare to laugh? Your brother's granddaughter is already so old. How about you?" Jun Xian looked at his younger, less accomplished son while stroking his beard. Due to Jun Wu Xie's intervention, nobody in the Jun family aged. Jun Xian, despite looking only like he was in his 20s, he was much older than that. In the midst of the family's happiness, Jun Xian could not help but feel sorry for his youngest son. In terms of both character or looks, he was not lacking, but after so many years, he remained single and could not find a suitable mate. In the past, when Jun Xian broached the topic of marriage, Jun Qing brushed it aside, saying he wanted to help Jun Wu Xie stabilize the 3 realms. Now that peace reigned over the 3 realms, that excuse no longer held water. Seeing that his father was bringing up such an unwelcome topic, Jun Qing could no longer smile. Well, Jun Qing's mouth remained open for a while, but nothing was coming out. Jun Xian was not going to let him off that easily and said sternly, "Enough with your excuses. If you do not find a wife in 3 months, I will find one for you, and don't blame me if she isn't a ravishing beauty." Jun Qing looked at his father, half crying and half smiling. He always got like this when Jun Wuxie and Jun Wuyao came home with their baby, but this time he seemed resolute and there was no delaying it anymore. But Jun Qing had no views on such matters, but there was one thing he knew. Whenever he saw Jun Moyi, he always had the urge to have a child of his own. However, how do you have a child if you don't have a wife? Jun Xian continued to nag on, and Jun Qing could only lower his head and look towards his siblings for help, but they were too preoccupied with playing with Jun Moyi to notice his cries for help. But Han Zifei noticed his predicament and said, "Little Wuxie, if I remember correctly, Yi is still your disciple, right?" Jun Wuxie was stunned for a moment. She did not expect her mother to bring up Yi. Yi had been sent back to the lower realms at a young age, and Jun Wuxie made her disciple as she had shown great talent in healing poisons. However, although she was her disciple, Jun Wuxie did not pay much attention to her and sent her to live with the Jun family to be taken care of. Over time, Yi had blossomed into a beautiful young lady. Because she was raised in the Jun household, Yi was familiar with the people in the Ruilin army, in which there were many famous doctors besides Bai Su, Mu Chan, and Bai Yun. On account of her knowledge of medicine and blessings bestowed by Jun Wuxie, she was counted amongst them. When she was still young, most of the soldiers in the Ruilin army took care of her as a little sister. Her good character, in addition to her pretty face, made her the subject of attention and admiration from many soldiers. "What about Yi?" Jun Wuxie asked Han Zifei, not understanding her meaning. "She isn't a child anymore, and previously, her grandfather had asked me to find her a suitable man. As her master, shouldn't you put some effort into that as well?" Han Zifei chuckled. "Mother can do as she pleases. I'm not an expert in this area." Jun Wuxie sounded a little impatient. "Yes, Dum Qiao and the rest are good candidates. Although they are a little older, it matters little since they are gods and do not age. Why don't you?" Han Zifei suggested. But that made Jun Wuxie not know whether to laugh or cry. The few of them seemed even stranger than her own uncle. Ever since Fei Yen had his appearance and eyesight restored after becoming a god, he only had eyes for Rong Ruo, who had also become a god. And Xiao Chu and Hua Yao kept coming and going, not interacting with women. Only Fanjua seemed relatively normal, but whenever he returned to the lower 3 realms, he was holed up in the Fenghua school to meet up with Fan Jin, and the 2 brothers would talk for hours on end. There was no room for Jun Wuxie to intervene. Upon thinking about it, Jun Wuxie could not think of any suitable candidates for Yi. Yi Mei and the rest had nary a romantic bone in their body and just kept doing their jobs of standing guard ever since they entered paradise. After thinking for a long time, Jun Wuxie suddenly thought of someone. Dum Qiao and the rest may not be suitable, but Nangong Lai might be. "No!" The previously quiet Jun Qing suddenly made his voice heard. The hall fell silent, and everyone in it turned to look at Jun Qing. "Why not? We all know Nangong Lai, and he is a good man, which is such a rarity in the 3 realms." The more Han Zifei said, the more she felt Nangong Lai was suitable, seemingly not noticing that Jun Qing's expression was turning sour. He looked impatiently at his sister-in-law and stood up suddenly, saying, "I'm going out for a walk." After finishing, he left without waiting for anyone to respond. Jun Wuxie was confused. "What's wrong with uncle?" Han Zifei suddenly laughed and had a mischievous glint in her eye. "What else could it be? The girl he raised has suddenly become a woman and about to be married off. Your uncle couldn't take it." Nobody knew exactly how stubborn Jun Qing was. That night, neither he nor Yi returned home to the Jun residence. But Yen Bugue, who had already reunited with Suya, had seen Jun Qing call Yi out at night to go to the lake for a chat. After that incident, Jun Xian never urged Jun Qing to get married again, and the Jun household started preparations for a big wedding celebration. Jun Wuxie was melancholic, wondering if she would have to change how she addressed her disciple in the future. On the day of the wedding, Jun Qing successfully brought Yu Yi away. As broken-hearted as the members of the Ruilin army were, none dared to challenge him as they feared for their lives. Xiao Chu and the rest were greeted by a sea of red decorations as they arrived to celebrate the festivities, and each watched as the groom, Jun Qing, got redder and redder as he continued drinking wine. "Looks like little uncle might not be able to perform in the bedroom tonight," Xiao Chu said with a laugh. To the side, although the members of the Ruilin army had no courage to challenge him, they did not hold back when it came to insulting him. Jun Qing would have already been lying drunk on the floor if not for his high alcohol tolerance. And this was not even counting the alcohol that Long Qi had drunk on his behalf. "That's where you're wrong. Even if he's lying flat on the floor, he still must do it." Fei Yan laughed. His appearance had fully recovered, but his character remained unchanged. "I can't believe he's so drunk this early. If this continues, Long Qi will have to carry him back." Xiao Chu thought out loud. Fei Yan gently swirled the glass in his hand. "Have you forgotten who is Yu Ye's teacher? She will surely have something simple like a sobering medicine on hand." Xiao Chu remained silent, pretending he never said anything at all. "Mother, hug." Jun Imoyi had just returned to the banquet hall after being in the bridal chamber looking at Yu Yi, and immediately asked her mother for a hug when she saw her. Jun Wuxia laughed and picked her daughter up and put her on her lap. Jun Wuyao, sitting to her side, smiled and placed some delicious food on the plate for his wife and daughter to eat. The family of three looked the picture of harmonious contentment at the table. Fei Yan could not help but smile at the scene. After drinking a few more, his eyes started to wander towards Rong Rua, who was sitting next to him. Rong Rua's soul was extracted out of the puppet by Jun Wuxia and put into a new body. Rong Rua had requested to be put into a male body, and while there was little change to his facial appearance, the broad shoulders and chest gave no hint of femininity whatsoever. He had become a dashing young man. Rong Rua was kind by nature, and when the women at the wedding celebration saw his gentle smile, they could not help but swoon. However, the attention Rong Rua was receiving made Fei Yan feel suffocated. He wished he could stuff Rong Rua into his pocket, away from the lecherous eyes of those women. Jun Qing was stumbling over himself and had to be helped to his room by Long Qi, who was almost as drunk as him. The men from the Ruilin army, while sore that the flower in their midst had been taken away, acknowledged that it was by a man they ultimately admired and stopped making a fuss. The banquet was nearing its end, and the crowd started to disperse. As a member of the Jun household, Jun Wuxia sent off the guests with Jun Gu and the rest of the family. A figure walked hesitantly towards the main door of the Jun residence. "May I have a few words with you?" Chu Lingyu said to Jun Wuxia, who despite becoming a mother and showing some weariness from the years that have passed, she still looked as radiant as she did in her past. Jun Wuxia nodded her head, passed her tired child to Jun Wuyao and walked together with Chu Lingyu to the backyard. Lei Chun, who had arrived at the banquet with Chu Lingyu, did not follow them. But as she stood at the doorway watching them walk away, his heart was overcome with bitterness. Jun Wuxia and Chu Lingyu strolled in the garden under the moonlight, and the flowers, seemingly aware of her godly presence, seemed to bloom even brighter. The red silk was hung high, and as people were leaving, the Jun family's joy was obvious, but their joy was not shared by everyone present. Chu Lingyu and Jun Wuxia both said nothing as they walked through the garden and sat down. Both beauties had completely opposite demeanors. Chu Lingyu had long cast away the image of a young, naive woman after going through her numerous trials and tribulations, and no full-blooded man would dare to underestimate her. She was a steel-blooded queen, and was no longer the Chu Lingyu of old, a spoiled girl from a big city. It was only at this moment, as she was seated next to Jun Wuxia, that a smile could be seen on her face. Their long shadows, cast by the moonlight, made them seem worlds apart despite the fact that they were so close to each other. "I grew up in the Thousand Beast City. Although my mother died young, my father loved me greatly and never let me suffer any hardship. I believed the world was good, and the occasional flash of evil I saw had nothing to do with me. My father used to say that when I got older, I should find a man that truly loves me and is devoted to my happiness, and that it didn't matter whether he was rich or talented. Chu Lingyu said with a laugh, her shadow moving in unison with her. I never thought I would experience what I did, even though it still feels like a nightmare, like it wasn't real. But I can't deny that it did happen, although now I can't remember everything that happened. Maybe it's my subconscious trying to forget it. Chu Lingyu's voice cracked. She turned to look at Jun Wuxie, who was looking at her calmly and silently but could feel an unmistakable gentleness in the look. The gentleness made her feel like crying. Wuxie, Chu Lingyu said softly. Yes. Can I give you a hug? Chu Lingyu's voice was barely audible and trembling ever so slightly. Jun Wuxie was stunned momentarily, and as she looked at Chu Lingyu's eyes being welled up with tears, she felt like she was looking at her naive and innocent eyes from the past. Jun Wuxie stood up, extended her arms and wrapped them around Chu Lingyu, all without saying a word. This was the first time she had embraced the woman who was once known as her wife. Jun Wuxie realized that she had not changed at all. Her petite frame felt so weak in her arms. Under the mask of strength and decisiveness was still a scared little girl. The difference was, the little girl had her own beliefs, and it was those beliefs that made her grow strong. Chu Lingyu closed her eyes and enjoyed the warmth of Jun Wuxie's embrace, longing for it to last, knowing that it could never belong to her. Wuxie, thank you. The soft thank you came straight from her heart. I don't regret falling in love with you. You were better than anybody else. The many years of repressed love burst forth at that moment, and tears started steaming down her face. Jun Wuxie just held her silently. She knew what was in her heart, but could not reciprocate. She had said in the past that she could be Chu Lingyu's greatest protector and support, but she could not give her what she wanted the most. Under the moonlight, it was silent. Lei Chun stood in the corner of the garden, confused by what he was witnessing, not knowing what emotions he was feeling at that time. After a moment of silence, Chu Lingyu pushed away from Jun Wuxie, stood up and wiped away her tears. Even though her eyes were still filled with tears, she was smiling radiantly. I'm about to start a new life and will not be bogged down by the past. I have repaid your kindness to me and protected what you asked me to protect. We are even. Chu Lingyu said with a smile, which would have been convincing were it not for the tremble in her voice. Jun Wuxie nodded her head slightly. She felt guilty towards Chu Lingyu and would never be stingy with what she asked for. No matter what direction Chu Lingyu chose to take in the future, she would support her silently. Chu Lingyu's smile turned even brighter, and she took a step forward and planted a light kiss on Jun Wuxie's cheek, so light that it felt like a gentle breeze kissing her. Really even. Chu Lingyu stared at Jun Wuxie. Without waiting for an answer, Chu Lingyu turned around and started to walk away. Jun Wuxie was feeling confused but could not do anything. When she reached the entrance of the garden, Chu Lingyu saw the man who had been waiting for her. Lei Chun was surprised and felt embarrassed at being caught. I was just passing by. Lei Chun, Chu Lingyu said suddenly. Yes. Do you mind? Chu Lingyu said to him. Mind what? Lei Chun did not know what she was talking about. My past, all the things I've done before. Chu Lingyu replied. Lei Chun shook his head without hesitation. You're better than anyone. I've always seen that. All these years you... Before he could finish, Chu Lingyu put her finger on his lips to shush him. Do you dare to marry me? Lei Chen's eyes grew large in disbelief, and he removed her hand from his lips, grasping it tightly, and exclaimed in delight. Marrying you would be the greatest joy in my life. The night was silent. After Chu Lingyu left, Jun Wuxie sat in the courtyard for a long time, until Jun Wuyao walked to her under the moonlight and sat down beside her. What are you thinking about? Jun Wuyao looked at Jun Wuxie, and the love in his eyes was apparent. Jun Wuxie shook her head. Nothing much. Just that time has passed by so quickly, and so many people and things have changed. Changed for the better or worse? Jun Wuyao inquired with a smile. Jun Wuxie sighed. Do you think Xiao Zhua has really let it go? Jun Wuxie did not know how to react. At the time when the god of destruction was vanquished, there was a being that was not destroyed with him. It was Guing. Guing was a soul that had been released by the god of destruction but somehow managed to gain a mind of its own. After the god of destruction died, Gu Ying's soul was truly liberated, no longer subject to any restraint. When the god of destruction died, Gu Ying did not leave, but appeared in front of Jun Wuxie, as if he was waiting for something. At the time Fan Zhua was conscious but let Gu Ying go in the end. Among them, only Fan Zhua and Gu Ying had bad blood between them, but Fan Zhua decided to let him go. Gu Ying's soul was finally taken away by Gu Xianyan, but nobody knew where he was taken to. It was his own decision, so I believe he would be at peace with it. Jun Wu Yao replied. In that game of chess, everyone was just a pawn in the God of Destruction's game. Jun Wu Xie sighed softly. What about little Mo Yi? She's asleep. Hua Yao is carrying her and I came to see you. Jun Wu Yao replied. Jun Wu Xue smiled and held his hand as she stood up. Just as she was about to leave the courtyard, a holy light appeared suddenly and shone on an empty space in the yard. The holy light was dazzlingly bright, making it impossible for anyone looking at it to open their eyes. The sacred and pure light rooted Jun Wu Xie and Jun Wu Yao to the ground. A petite figure emerged from the light. What place is this? Did the main god trick me again? A suspicious voice pierced the silence in the courtyard. When Jun Wu Xie heard that voice, it was like she had been struck by lightning and froze to the spot. The figure casted its eyes over the courtyard, and when it saw Jun Wu Xie, it suddenly burst out into a bright and radiant smile. Wu Xie. A beautiful voice rang out from the person's mouth. She was a beautiful and captivating young woman with not a single flaw on her face and radiated a strong energy. Her warm beauty stood in contrast with Jun Wu Xie's cool beauty, but both were equally beautiful. Little Wu Xie, I finally found you. I've missed you so much. The beautiful woman rushed towards the rooted Jun Wu Xie with her arms outstretched. But Jun Wu Xie suddenly regained her senses and raised her hand to strike the onrushing girl in her face. The girl was stunned and looked at Jun Wu Xie. In her eyes there was no anger, just a sense of sadness and grievances. The entire courtyard was eerily quiet, and the figure that emerged from the light had been frightened into silence. They stared at the little devil king who had been hit by a beautiful girl. What surprised them even more was the lack of retaliation. Little Wu Xie, that's certainly a special way to greet someone? Xinyan Xiao rubbed the sore area on his face. What had happened to little Wu Xie to turn her so violent? Jun Wu Xie took a deep breath, strode forward and stared at the hateful woman in front of her with hatred in her eyes. Greet you? Why should I have to be polite to such an arrogant and stupid woman like you? Xinyan Xiao was stunned. As the main god for many years, she had become accustomed to people hanging on her every word, but when faced with Jun Wu Xie's intense stare, she could only stand silently as she let her vent. You're very capable, aren't you? You're very powerful when standing in front of me? How did I not know that you're capable of such dedication? I don't care for your protection. Jun Wu Xie didn't hold back as she continued staring at the woman who died for her. She never felt any care or concern in her previous life, and the only person who treated her well or could make any inroads into her heart was the hateful woman standing in front of her. But it was this woman who used her own life to protect her during a time of great danger. But that scene became a nightmare for Jun Wu Xie that she has not been able to forget. She would never be able to erase the memory of seeing her fall in front of her. That was in a previous life where all the warmth she ever knew was wiped out in front of her very eyes. How she wished that the one who died was her instead. Damn you! Damn you! Who said you could save me? Jun Wu Xie howled, the repressed anger of 2 lifetimes boiling to the surface. As Xinyan Xiao stood there bearing the brunt of Jun Wu Xie's anger, any grievances she had disappeared, and she smiled a little as Jun Wu Xie continued. She then extended her arms to give Jun Wu Xie a hug. All right, I admit my mistake. Don't be angry anymore. You saved me so many times, but I'm not allowed to return the favor even once. Xinyan Xiao said gently but with a bittersweet tone in her voice. It was good that they didn't forget each other. I don't appreciate it, Jun Wu Xie retorted. Xinyan Xiao chuckled slightly. Little Wu Xie had never changed. She was incredibly soft-hearted, but her pride always made her keep an icy cool demeanor and an even sharper mouth. Jun Wuxie gradually calmed down after her initial burst of anger. The holy light had attracted the attention of quite a few people and made Xiao Chu and the others who were resting in the house go out to take a look. They arrived in the courtyard to see Jun Wuxie locked in an embrace with a beautiful woman they had never seen before, and standing behind the woman were several tall figures. "Brother Wu Yao. This is..." Xiao Chu inquired hesitantly. Jun Wu Yao just shook his head. "My apologies. I am little Wu Xie's friend from long ago, and I came to see how she is doing," Shun Yen Xiao said cheerfully and looked up to greet Jun Wu Xie's family and friends. But the first person she cast her eyes on blew her away. "Satan!" Shun Yen Xiao stared at the man behind Jun Wu Xie in disbelief. After all those years, those unmistakable purple eyes still haunted her like a nightmare. Satan, the Devil King who almost destroyed the world. What was he doing there? Instinctively, Shun Yen Xiao shielded Jun Wu Xie behind her own body and shouted to the crowd, "Help me protect little Wu Xie." The man she was referring to was tall and handsome. His eyes exuded a coldness that only seemed to dissipate when he looked at her. Di Xiu looked helplessly at the young girl who was pushed in front of him, as well as his own feisty wife, and suddenly had a headache. "Satan, you haven't been destroyed." Shun Yen Xiao narrowed her eyes as she prepared to use all her power in battle. Jun Wuyao looked on in surprise at the woman who was being so hostile towards him. He felt like he had seen her and the people behind her in a dream once. In that dream, it was this group of people that destroyed him. However, "I think you've got the wrong person," Jun Wuyao said with a laugh. The situation at hand was quite interesting. "I wouldn't be mistaken even if you were reduced to ashes," Shin Yen Xiao retorted. "Oh? Then maybe you should ask little Xie who I am," Jun Wu Yao said. If he did not know what Shin Yen Xiao meant to Jun Wu Xie, or that she had once sacrificed her life to save her, he might not have had the patience to say all that to her. Shin Yen Xiao narrowed her eyes once again and turned towards Jun Wu Xie. Jun Wu Xie had a complicated expression on her face. "Little Wu Xie, this is a bad guy and you should keep your distance from him," Shin Yen Xiao said with great concern. Jun Wu Xie's expression grew even more complicated. "But don't worry, I won't let him harm even a hair on your head," Shin Yen Xiao continued sincerely. Jun Wu Xie's brows were almost knotted. Just as Shun Yen Xiao was preparing to find out from Jun Wu Xie what Satan was doing there, and if he had caused any trouble, a soft and gentle voice suddenly rang out. "Mother!" Jun Mo Yi, who had been sleeping, was awakened by the commotion and wandered into the courtyard and saw her mother. "Mo, mother?" Shin Yen Xiao looked at the cute child, then back at Jun Wu Xie. Jun Wu Xie nodded her head. Shin Yen Xiao was speechless. It was incomprehensible for her to think of Jun Wu Xie as a mother. "Mother, hug." Little Mo Yi paid no attention to the stranger in the courtyard and sleepily whined to her mother to pick her up. Jun Wu Xie laughed and shook her head at her daughter. Little Mo Yi was aggrieved at being refused by her mother and started bawling. As she looked around, she saw Jun Wu Yao and said pitifully, "Father, hug." When Shun Yen Xiao heard the word father, it was like she was struck by lightning and was rooted to the spot. "Father, father, father." Those two words nauseated Shin Yen Xiao. As she looked at Jun Mo Ye's exquisite face, she saw shades of both Jun Wu Xie and Jun Wu Yao. Shin Yen Xiao clutched her chest and had trouble breathing. She pointed at Jun Wu Yao, turned back to face Jun Wu Xie and said, "Little Wu Xie, you couldn't have..." Jun Wu Xie nodded silently, feeling some pity for her overwhelmed sister. Shin Yen Xiao staggered back in shock and fell into a deep silence. Di Xiu, standing behind her, was surprised as well, but had a much calmer reaction than Shin Yen Xiao. He looked up at the enemy who had fought against him for many years and could not see any more evil in that pair of violet eyes. All he could see were loving eyes looking at Jun Wu Xie as if she was the only person in the world. Di Xiu knew that that look meant, "It can't be." Shin Yen Xiao grabbed Jun Wu Xie by the shoulders and said, "Little Wu Xie, do you know who he is? He's an evil man who almost destroyed a whole world." Jun Wu Xie laughed bitterly as she looked at her good friend and helplessly looked towards the so-called evil man. Jun Wu Yao raised both his hands to protest his innocence to his wife. Xiao Xiao. Jun Wu Xie tried to speak. However, he must have tricked you, Xin Yan Xiao asserted. Jun Wu Xie was at a loss for words and could only look at Jun Wu Yao with an expression that only both of them knew. Jun Wu Yao's head was beginning to hurt. His wife's expression meant that he should be cleaning up his own mess, but he felt so maligned as the deeds from his previous life had nothing to do with him, even though Xin Yan Xiao disagreed. What's going on? The confused look on Xiao Chen's face said it all. In addition to the chaotic scene in front of him, these strangers also had mystical golden glows. Hua Yao and the others were just as confused. Jun Emoyi went over to Jun Wu Yao's leg, pulled on his trouser leg and said, "Father, hug." Jun Wu Yao bent down and picked his daughter up, all the while being watched by Xin Yan Zhao's wary eyes. Despite her young age, little Emoyi could tell that the beautiful lady in front of her did not seem to like her father, and furthermore, by standing in front of her mother, prevented her from getting a hug from her. The aggrieved little Emoyi pointed a stubby little finger at the strange lady and said, "Naughty!" Xin Yan Xiao was frozen to the spot. Although she did not like Satan, she had great affection for Jun Wu Xie and consequently, her offspring. But to be despised by her after only one meeting was a great setback for her. Her whole being just wilted. "You're not allowed to call my mother bad." Suddenly, a green glow and a handsome boy appeared in front of Xin Yan Xiao, staring at Jun Emoyi, who was in her father's arms. The young boy looked to be about right or 9 and was very handsome, with Xin Yan Zhao's eyebrows. Despite his young age, he had an impressive aura about him. Little Emoyi had been the apple of everyone's eye since she was born and had never been scolded in such a way before. When faced with the fierce look of the older boy in front of her, she suddenly burst out crying. Boo-hoo-hoo! Her crying removed all the awkwardness in the yard but replaced it with panic as nobody knew what to do. When Xin Yan Xiao saw the little girl who looked like Jun Wu Xie bawling, her heart went soft, and turning to her own son, she suddenly slapped him across the face saying, "Who said you could be fierce to her?" The boy, after receiving the slap, looked at his mother in puzzlement, feeling quite wronged. Boo-hoo-hoo! I want my mother. Boo-hoo-hoo! He was fierce to me. Little Emoyi was quite a pitiful sight, crying in her father's arms. At this moment, Xin Yan Xiao couldn't take it any longer and urged Jun Wu Xie to comfort her child. Jun Wu Xie picked up the red-eyed child, while Riley smiling and little Emoyi started to cry even more. As Jun Wu Yao comforted his daughter from the side, the image of the happy family of 3 made Xin Yan Xiao feel a bit depressed. "All right, Satan is no longer who he used to be, and I'm sure you don't want that child to continue crying." Di Xiu looked at Jun Wu Xie and smiled. Xin Yan Zhao's eyebrows were twisted into a knot. "What about the things in the past? This guy has been a thorn in your side for many years." Di Xiu shook his head. "Would I have met you if not for him?" Xin Yan Zhao's face turned red. One side Xin Yan Xiao and Di Xiu were going back and forth, and on the other, Jun Wu Xie and Jun Wu Yao were trying to comfort their daughter. The boy who caused it all did not know what was happening. Things seemed completely different from what he had imagined. "Why are you still standing there? Quickly go and apologize to her." Xin Yan Xiao glared at her son. The boy resigned himself to his fate and went up to Jun Emoyi saying, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be fierce to you. I just didn't want you to say my mother is bad. Stop crying, okay?" Little Emoyi looked at the older boy and wiped away a tear, asking, "Will you be fierce to me again in the future?" The boy immediately shook his head. Xiao Moi looked at her father and mother, and after getting some encouragement from them, slowly came down from Jun Wu Xie's embrace and walked to the young boy, saying, "Then I can forgive you, but you have to tell me your name so that if you are fierce to me again in the future, I will carve your name on the back of a little turtle and let everyone laugh at you." The threat was spoken in all seriousness but instead made all the adults in the audience laugh. The boy, however, took it seriously and said, "I am Di Jing and I mean what I say." "Di Jing." Xiao Emoyi was confused. Di Jing stepped forward, took Xiao Emoyi's small hand in his and wrote his name on her palm. "It's these 2 words. You must remember them." The two children shook hands and made peace, and with that, all was well. Despite her misgivings, Shun Yen Xiao had little choice to accept the situation when she saw the deep love between Jun Wuxie and Jun Wuyao. However, she still gave him a stern warning that if he were to ever mistreat Jun Wuxie, she would challenge him to a fight to the death. Jun Wuyao could only nod in agreement. With the atmosphere eased, Jun Wuxie and Shun Yen Xiao introduced everybody to each other. When meeting each other, everyone had a feeling that they should have met sooner. Everybody was in a good mood. The newly acquainted Jun Moyi and Di Jing were off having their own fun. The still red-eyed Jun Moyi had all but forgotten the unpleasantness of earlier. She'd always been surrounded by adults and never had a playmate close to her age before, and so she was naturally happy to play with him. In the Jun household, little Moyi was like the small master, pulling Di Jing everywhere to show him things, and out of guilt of his treatment earlier, he just went along with what she wanted to do. This is Lord Meme. So soft. When little Moyi found Lord Meme, who was hiding in the corner of the courtyard, her little eyes sparkled and she reached out her hands. Lord Meme, when seeing little Moyi coming after it, immediately started to run away, together with Blood Sacrificial Rabbit. Hey, don't run. This is Brother Jing. He won't hurt you. Little Moyi cried out anxiously as the two creatures ran away. Di Jing just kept quiet. He did not think the two creatures were running away from him. Little Moyi continued to give chase and would have fallen over if Di Jing hadn't held her upright. Zhu Kei, who had been quietly observing the child she had brought up, finally understood. She wiped away a warm tear and threw the food she had been holding onto the floor. Isn't that good? Now you don't have to pick up after her all day. Tao Tai happily stuffed a peach into her mouth. Zhu Kei sighed softly and realized that actually being a babysitter was not bad too. At least, it was better than the treatment of those two. The Jun family had just finished their wedding banquet, but with the unexpected arrival of these new guests, they closed the main doors to have another one. Xiao Chu and the rest who had not left also stayed for another party. I say to you, my brother, I think we will get along. What's your name? A slightly drunk Xiao Chu said to a handsome man after a few drinks. Ah, my name is Tang Naji. Let's have a few more drinks. The man replied as they continued drinking and put their arms on each other's shoulders. Li Xiao Wei looked on at her drunk brother and shook her head helplessly. She looked up and saw Hua Yao, who had a similar look of resignation on her face. They were all useless guys. The end matchmaking, a song here and a glass there, and it was late into the night before anyone knew it, and everyone present had become one large boisterous group. Jun Wuxie and Shun Yen Xiao had not seen each other for ages and had much to catch up on. Di Xie and Jun Wuyao sat next to their respective wives. Their feud now a thing of the past, as they now only cared about the women next to them. The so-called hatred had been resolved. Fanjua smiled and surveyed the happy scene in front of him and gradually came to rest his gaze on the handsome, smiling man seated opposite him. He was a man of few words, and when the drunk Tang Naji said something to him, he felt his hair stand on end. If he remembered correctly, the man's name was Qixia. Fanjua was curious about this man and observed him closely. After a while, he noticed that despite his outwardly casual demeanor, he carried an unmistakable air of sadness with him. Qixia, who was in the middle of taking a drink, felt someone looking at him and raised his head to look Fanjua in the eye. The two intelligent men said nothing to each other. Qixia raised his glass and they made a silent toast to each other. Fanjua could not help but sigh after drinking the wine. The moonlight was bright and the smell of wine filled the air. The two tired children were carried back to the hall by Zhu Kei, and Tao Tai and their respective mothers took them over. Upon seeing the two sleeping children, Shun Yen Xiao flashed a mischievous smile and looked over at Jun Wuxie. Jun Wuxie knew exactly what that look meant. Little Wuxie, look. Your little Moyi is so well behaved and my son isn't ugly. They may have gotten off on the wrong foot, but they seem to be getting along fine now. Why don't we? Shun Yen Xiao fluttered her eyelids at Jun Wuxie. Jun Wuxie was helpless when it came to her friend's way of thinking. But, regarding this proposal, she not only did not mind, she happily supported it. It's all well and good, but we live in different worlds. It's easy to say when we are together, but when the time comes for one of us to have to be separated from our child, there will be some difficulty. Jun Wu Xie sighed lightly. Xin Yan Shao allayed her friend's worry. It's a small matter. We've been fooled by the main god long enough, and he should be grateful that we don't take our revenge on him. Getting him to solve this issue won't be a problem. Although Xinyan Shao was reluctant to bring him up, she had to admit that he was at a higher level than her or Jun Wuxie. If that is possible, then I don't see any issue. Jun Wuxie nodded. The two children did not know that their futures had already been decided by their mothers while they were sleeping. And that shared future will be another story. For now, they were still children and they had a very long road ahead of them. The end.